So recently I upgraded my computer, got mostly the latest and greatest, mostly the latest, not necessarily the greatest, but I digress. And I had a lot of extra parts from it. One of the parts I was able to get was a motherboard and a CPU, and I was able to upgrade that to the family members, and then I was able to get their old stuff, which actually turns out to be a lot better than what I have now. This is my i7 9700. I've had it for several years, bought it brand new when it came out, and it was a great rig, and I wound up making it my test bench. I've used this mostly the past several years for testing graphics cards, just different drives and everything, and it has served me well. It hasn't had a lot of abuse on it, still has some great life, and to offset the cost of this new build, I could go ahead, pop it in a computer, sell it for a couple of $100s, and offset that little ouch for paying for the upgrade and the addiction to computers. So now when doing this, you have a couple of options. Number one, you could create a test bench. And that's what I did with this one. Number two, you could build a computer for the little human that you claim on your taxes, and that way they don't mess up your computers. Or give it to a family member, or even hook up the Mr. or Mrs. and, make them feel special and nice. Especially if you add some RGB. You could tell them, hey, these colors, I'm thinking about you. But anyways, I'm upgrading my test bench, and I'm going to take this, put it in a computer, flip it, offset the cost, and give my test bench a little more life. Now this has served me really well, but hardware is getting newer and I'm running into the whole CPU bottlenecking. If you watch my video about the 4060 and 3080, everybody commented it and I was well aware of it. I had some serious CPU bottleneck. I'm not going to be able to get rid of all the bottlenecks, but if we could get it a little better, that works. So this is what I end up with. Not this. This is my new board. Well, my new board was it. My new board was in it. This is another MSI flavor. It's MATX, and it has a Ryzen 7 5700. Now you're probably saying, it's not too much of a performance increase. I think I'm actually gaining 10%, maybe a little more. Not 100% sure, but it is better than this. And because it's the B550 flavor, I'll be able to put a Ryzen 9 5900 if I'm able to pick one up in the wild for cheap. So that's the other reason behind it. So first things first, let's go ahead and just disconnect everything. Unscrew it, and gently put this to the side. Now let's open this up, take a look at it. If I'm not mistaken, this is 32 gigs of DDR for the 3000 speeds. It's good enough for what I'm doing. And the Ryzen 7 5700. But now that I get to thinking about it, I need a cooler. So for the cooler, I'm going to go with this one. It's the Be Quiet Pure Rock LP. It's a 100 watt TDP. This is a 65 watt TDP. Should be fine. And like I've talked about in my other videos, undervolting is where it's at. And I think that should be more than enough for what I need for this. So we're going to go with that. This computer doesn't really do a lot. It's mostly for testing. That's fine. In fact, all this memory is overkill, so I'll probably switch it to 16 gigs and keep these for another build. Now let's go ahead and mount this on just like so. My only complaint with this cooler, really, I mean, it's kind of minute, is that the screws to mount this on is in the Intel bag. And it's like, really? I actually searched for a little bit until I opened up that bag and found it. Kinda weird, but anyways. Now it does have its own pre-applied thermal paste, which should be more than enough for our purposes. Now in the future, like I said, I will be upgrading this to, a 5900, something to that effect. But for now, it's fine. And who knows, it might be even fine for as long as I need it. This cooler kind of screws in right here, and this is kind of hard to do one-handed, but you gotta do what you gotta do. But it screws in through the existing backplate threads, like so, and then into the cooler. And you gotta line it up and kind of, juggle jiggle and hope we get it right, which right now I'm not doing that. It's in, nice and snug. Should be good enough. I'm just gonna leave this memory in here, and if I need it, at least I know where it's at. Let's screw it back onto the bench. I have thought about changing my bench to something a little more practical and easier to swap out boards, but this works. It's good enough for the girls I date. All right, let's plug this back in. And just because I have it, power switch should go right over here. And that's all I'm going to worry about. Just run that just like so. Now, we do need to put into storage. I am going to stick to an NVMe 1 terabyte flavor. That should be good enough. Now, because we lose the iGPU, we're going to have to put a dedicated graphics card, and this is where the trusty GT1030 comes into place, like the little guy. Alright, this is all done, ready to go. I'll have to fire it up, install a copy of Windows. I'll do that off camera. I am going to do a fresh install because I'm going from Intel to AMD, and all the drivers on this NVMe are just scrambled just from all the graphics cards and hardware I've put in. So I'll do that off camera. Let's move on to the build of the day. So now back into the 9700, I need a storage drive. I transferred it from the other one, and I'm going to put one in here. Now for my storage drive, I typically order them new, and if I find a good deal enough on the Facebook Marketplace, I'll pick it up. But there's this guy that I found on the Facebook group that I'm part of, bcpc Brandon Coin. He has a YouTube channel, Brandon Coin, and he has his own computer shop, bcpc. And I was able to pick up a bunch of these, like dirt cheap. I got a 500 gig, 512 gig that I will be using for this. This is also a 512, and they were 20 bucks a piece, which is fantastic. They're tested, they're working, and good enough for the girls I date. For $20 is actually not a bad deal. If you check out his webpage, he has a lot of good deals on stuff like memory. He has motherboard CPU combos. I bought a few CPUs from him because, well, they were dirt cheap. I think I got like an i7, i5 from him, and yeah, really great prices. And honestly, the prices are close enough where it's almost worth just buying it from him versus hustling on the Facebook Marketplace. Now, the Facebook Marketplace, if I could get it cheaper than what he's selling it, I'll absolutely pick it up. But most of the time lately, I've seen his stuff to be cheaper, so that's something to consider. But with the Facebook Marketplace, if you could kind of do like a bulk deal and really haggle a person, that's where you really get some good bang for the buck. But buying it from him, you get warranty. So I'll post a link to his YouTube channel and also to his business page below. And if you guys are looking for NVMEs, CPUs, you name it, he has it. Great prices on GPUs. You could pick it up from him and really get a good deal. So I'll post that in the comments. So let's move this out of here. And you're probably saying, why are you still using that cooler? Well, that cooler works great, and it gets the job done. And like I keep saying, I undervolt, so everything stays nice and cool. It has the RGB cells, so it'll work. And now for our flavor of case, NZXT. I forget the name of the model this is. I'll post on the screen, but I got this for $20 on the Facebook Marketplace. Guy wanted 50, I offered 20. He said, come and get it. Sweet deal, $20 for a case. White cleans up pretty nice. I find with white cases, if they have some staining, you could take a magic eraser, buff it out, and you won't even notice it, and it'll look brand new. Tempered glass so everybody can see the beautiful colors. It's a nice looking case, and for $20, that's a win. Now, the first thing I need to do is take off this stickers. I'm using a plastic eraser. Yeah, you can use a heat gun. And these stickers are not coming off easy. And I don't know. I don't get why people put these stickers on their computers, because here's my thing. Yes, I may enjoy MSI or Razer or I think this is Logitech, but they don't pay me to advertise. So on my personal rig at home, why do I want to put free advertisement? Or better yet, why do I need to remind myself of what components I have in here? I don't know. If I'm going to put a sticker on my computer, it's actually going to be a cool looking one. Not something, you know, you guys get what I'm talking about. And just like that, good as new. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and open this thing up. I've already wiped it down with some glass cleaner just because that works pretty good. I'm just going to continue to wipe. I've wiped the outside, but I haven't wiped the inside, so just got to do that. This case was in pretty good condition. I mean, for $20, you can't go wrong. You know, if you're out there building a computer or trying to flip PCs, deals like this is what really helps you save some money and make some profit. So now we need to throw in a power supply. This is the Corsair HX 1050. I actually got a couple of these that I were able to pick up for like $20 a piece. Not bad. I got about 3 or 4 of them. Yes, it's probably overkill for this build, but for $20, I mean, hey, if it works, right? Done. Now we can go ahead and feed our wires and get ready for our motherboard. Now for fans, this is why you hold on to things. These are Be Quiet ones. I'm not using them for any specific reason, but the primary reason is because, well, I have them lying around. They're 140s. I believe this case has support for 2 140s, which should be perfect. Let me just double check. Yep. So we'll put 2 140s just like so. Unfortunately, I don't have a 120 for the back, but I do have this Fantex one, which should work. Doesn't have the Be Quiet logo, so really not going to be much of a big deal. So let's pop that in. And in case you didn't notice, I put one of the fans backward. So let's take it apart. I'll pop the other one in. Yep, pay attention, folks. Just pop in the motherboard, start with the back plate just like so. You guys should be proud of me. I actually have a back plate for this build. Try to get in our CPU power connectors. Let's screw it in. Done. Let's run some cables. Now that Fantex fan was driving me crazy. I actually found another Be Quiet one, 4-pin action, which, you know, that's an upgrade, I guess. But my OCD would not allow me to put a mismatch fan. I've done it before, but I don't know, I wasn't feeling it today. And I happened to find this one in. It's the perks of just keeping all your junk. Alright, so far this thing is actually coming together pretty good. The case looks nice, nothing damaged. Not a fan of the catch-up mustard cables, but when you're building computers cheap on a build, those are the trade-offs. Still a good power supply, but unfortunately, back when this thing was made, they didn't think of going with all black. But it is what it is. So unfortunately, I have to pause on this. For you guys, it'll just be a second, but for me, it might be a couple of days because, as you can see, I don't have a graphics card. I have a graphics card lined up for it, but I'm waiting on some parts for it. And you'll see when it gets here, and I'll explain a tip/trick that I use to kind of help with the graphics card situation. So we'll be back. So it is actually a couple of days later, and we have our graphics card. But it was actually a pleasant surprise. So I got on the eBay, and I picked up a broken GTX 980 for $10. And the reason why is because I have these 980s that I got from my water-cooled system. This was the ones using the from the Case Labs. They had a nice EK water block on them. I flipped the water blocks, but I was left with these. These are still pretty good graphics cards, and don't want them to go to waste. So I picked up another 980 that's supposed to be broken and not working. And well, guess what? It showed up, and it works perfectly fine. So I can see why they probably thought it wasn't working, because if you look over here, there's a little damage. I try to fix it up the best I can. It would be good for this build, but this graphics card runs solid. Did 2 hours of stress test and gaming, and well, it works. So we're gonna run with it. But now I still have two 980s that I don't have a air cooler for. So we'll get back on the hunt for that. But for now, 980 checks the box. So let's get this thing off in the back. I think this one is going to go right where it should go, which should be right in here, just like so. Let's see if that will fit. That should be good enough. It's not going to be perfect, but at least we'll have all the blank spots filled. Good. Now let's pop in power. So we got 2 6-pins. All right, good to go. So let's fire it up and this should be done. All right, so she's up and running. Everything looks good. I'm gonna leave the rainbow puke, as you know, some people just prefer that one, and whoever the seller is, I'll communicate with them and see what kind of color theme that they want, and then I'll help them and teach them how to use the software to change it. But for now, we'll leave it like that. They'll gain more interest on it. And the cool thing about like the cooler RGB and this type of RGB, you don't have to add anything else. That kind of speaks for itself instead of having to get strips and everything and invest in fans. But computer's running great, no issues. If you're curious about the performance, check out some of my older videos, as I've done performance on the i7 9700 and the 980. They work pretty well. Obviously, we could probably benefit from something like a 1080 or even like a 2060, 2070, maybe even a 2080, probably a 2080 or something like that. Whatever the 9700 would complement. I think it was the 1080 Ti or 1080, something like that. You guys can let me know in the comments, but that's how you kind of do it. Able to upgrade my test bench. Test bench is running great. Offset some of the cost by taking these parts and flipping them. I'll probably end up selling this computer for a couple $100s. I got a mouse, monitor, keyboard setup I'll put in for it, and I'll probably, just depending on where the market's at, I usually have to do some research before I randomly throw numbers out there so I can be competitive. Might be able to get about $300 for this setup. We'll see. I'll post it on the screen just to kind of see what I sold it for if I haven't sold by then. As far as this, you really can't notice it, but I will disclose it when I take some up close shots and just let the seller know, hey, it's just cosmetic, it's nothing performance. And if they want to haggle a couple of dollars for it, hey, it's not a deal breaker. And the biggest surprise being that this graphics card was labeled as not working, and I've completely refurbished it, gave it a good bubble bath, as you'll see in another video, and this thing runs solid and fantastic and nice, clean, easy build. I do like the white cases because they clean up pretty nice, especially with a magic eraser. The glass, the RGB works really well. Make a couple of bucks, and that's how you do it. You take your old parts and you repurpose them, unless you're gonna give them to family, friends, or somebody or maybe a side girlfriend or boyfriend. Who knows? I'm not here to judge. But either way, a couple of dollars or a gift, this stuff works good. So comment down below. Let me know your thoughts, concerns, criticisms. What do you actually do with your old hardware? Do you keep them for extra parts, sell them, flip them, give them away? Any suggestions to make this build even nicer? And have you ever run into that where you bought a broken piece of hardware and then just find out that it wasn't broken? If you like this video, definitely hit the like button, subscribe if you're not, and as always, we'll see what we come up with next.